All right, so we have seen some amazing presentations today. We talked about Windows 8 XAML, and we get a little bit of context around how to build those XAML applications. You've now seen HTML5 and JavaScript and CSS, and the underpinnings of building these mobile applications. It's now time for us to talk about DevExpress and the role that we play in pulling all this technology together. I thought the best way to start is by showing you a multi-channel application in action. And so the application that I'm showing you now is DXSK8. This is a skateboard company, and I am now in the business of deciding to purchase a skateboard. But the thing you need to know about skateboards is there's really three parts of a skateboard. There's the wheels, there's what's called the truck, which is the part that connects the wheel to the skateboard itself, and the last piece is the deck, or the board. So decks, trucks, and wheels. So I'm on this website. It's a beautiful e-commerce website built with DXTREME. And what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little shopping. So I'm on the site. It looks good. I see all kinds of interesting things. So I'm going to go and pick out a truck. So I'm going to click on this truck here. And here are all the different selections of trucks. So I'm going to go ahead and pick one. And as I do, when I pick one, you'll see that it'll get added up top up here. So I'll pick this 7-inch low raw. And there it is. And you can see my price updated in the corner. Need to get some wheels. So I'm going to go over to the wheels section. And here I have a collection of different skateboard wheels. I'm going to pick this G-Bones 2. So again, I'm going to go ahead and pick Add to Order. And you can see that gets added to my cart up top, as well as the price gets updated. And you see I'm logged in already on the website. It knows who I am, so it knows what I've done so far. The thing I'll tell you is many times when you make a purchase, you need to actually physically touch it. And a skateboard might be one of those things. The board itself might be something you need to stand on to see whether or not it's going to feel right under your feet. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to go over to a different part of the website. As you can see over here, there's a stores section. I'll click on that. And I can see a list of stores that are nearby in my area. I'm from the Seattle area, so these are all the stores that are in that geography. And so I'll find one that's near me, and I am going to get in my car and drive to the closest store to both stand on that board and to ask questions of the salesperson. So let's go do that. I'm going to get in my car. We're going to drive over there. And as soon as I get there, I am going to walk up to the salesperson, and I'm going to introduce myself. And my salesperson's name is Mehul Harry, and just happens to be in the back of the room. Mehul Harry is my sales guy, and this is the experience. I'm on this iPad. He hands me his iPad that he's carrying around in the store, and he says, you just mentioned, Dave, that you were shopping online. Great. Log into my iPad, and we'll kind of continue on the path we were already on. So I'm going to log into the iPad, and I'm in a simulator, of course, so you guys can all see it, but you'll see we'll use an iPad later in the presentation. And I'll sign in, and so now it knows, and I'll zoom in so you can see better, it knows about the G-Bones 2 wheels I picked and the 7-inch low raw truck that I chose. And of course it saw that it was me. You can see my picture over here, and me logged in. So I mentioned before, I want to look at skateboard decks, the board. And so I'll just go ahead and, on the iPad, just click on that. And on the iPad, I want to have the ability to, of course, ask the customer or ask the salesperson questions, like which is the right board for me based on my height and all that, and my experience level. And then I want to look at them, touch them, feel them, put them on the ground, and try them out. And so after that conversation, we decide this is the right one for me, the Lance Mountain P2 Drain More Pools. That's the one for me. I tried it out, and it's perfect for me. So I go ahead, and I will select Choose. And when I do that, I'll zoom in so you can see better. you can see under deck, it sees the Lance Mountain P2 Drain More Pools is in my order, and now I can go ahead and purchase. So I'll click buy, and when I do, you'll see that my order has been completed. And of course, I'll transact business. I'll give the credit card to my salesperson, and then the order is off and running. Now, you would imagine that the very next step is that the person that's responsible for building the skateboard gets some notification that it's time to start building a skateboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch roles, and now I'm going to be that person. I'm going to be the person whose job it is to assemble skateboards. So you can imagine I'm sitting in a warehouse not terribly far from that store, and it's time to put the skateboard together. I will, on my iPhone, see a notification that it's time to get to work. I have a customer I need to fulfill the order for. So I'll click on that and jump into the product, jump into this application. And you can see there's a set of new orders. And so I'll click on the new orders. And there is the order for me 5 minutes ago. I made this order. So I need to make that, I need to go in and look at that purchase. And there is the 7-inch low raw, the G-Bones 2, and the Lance Mountain P2 Drain More Pools. And so at my job as the guy working in this warehouse is to find all these parts and put them together and then ultimately deliver them to the customer, or at least to the store. And so I'll have buckets of all of my inventory, where I have buckets of these trucks and buckets of these wheels. And so what I'll do is I'm holding my phone, I'll walk over to the trucks, and I'll find the low raw set. And once I've found it and I'm about ready to assemble it, I'll just take it out of the bucket and hit the complete button. And I'll do the same thing for my wheels. And then I'll do the same thing for the skateboard deck. And as soon as I do that, you'll see that we'll get a desktop notification, hopefully. I'll say complete. And so my order is now complete. So now, of course, the guy's going to finish assembling the skateboard, putting the truck with the deck and the wheels on the truck, and then deliver that to the store, so the customer will have the skateboard on hand, and of course he'll have received an email that says that the skateboard is complete. You see in that we get this desktop notification. Now, the desktop notification really is really something that somebody at the corporate environment might receive more typically. You could imagine working as somebody whose job it is to manage the company, or at least to manage the inventory, would see this desktop notification. Oh my gosh, we are running low on the P2 Drain More Pools skateboard deck. And so now I'm switching to be the person that works in that corporate environment, and I'll click on that desktop notification and be taken to this dashboard. And so this dashboard is alerting me that I have an inventory problem. That I'll click into the inventory section, and you can see highlighted in orange that our under decks, and specifically the Lance Mountain P2 Drain More Pools, is running low at this particular warehouse. There's only 4 of them left. And so that's the kind of information that you would want if you were running the company, or at least running the corporate part of the company, understanding what's happening from an inventory perspective. You can also imagine being able to want to drill in on how is sales going. And in this case, you're seeing our direct versus our dealer sales, and being able to compare and contrast over time using our range selector, or looking at a specific month, like the month of October, and seeing what's happening that particular month. I'm now going to take a look at what's going on from a discount perspective. So what are the promotions that we're running, and who's really our best salesperson in what window for the different promotions that we're running by product. So the ability to navigate and see that information is critically important. And here you can see we're using a geographic view of which geographies are delivering the most revenue. You can see over time how the revenue is being approached, and you can also see with this our touch range control, we can choose specifically when what sales we want to look at in what time horizon. And then finally our brands, and so we can using our gauge controls, you can see how the brands are performing in terms of the quality and customer satisfaction. So this is using Windows 8 and live tiles provide a digital dashboard, an experience that your business end users can really understand what the health of the business is and react in real time. This is a great example of a multi-channel application where we've connected the different experiences together into one unified application, an integrated experience. That's the promise of multi-channel. And that's what DXTREME is all about. I want to do the next thing, which is I want to show you how we built this application. It's absolutely amazing. And the best way to do that is with a demonstration from our best salesperson and one of our best presenters, Mehul Harry.
All right, thank you, Dave. All right, so you've heard a lot, you've seen a lot. What I want to show you very quickly is how easy it is using the new DXTREME tools, the XAML and the HTML to build multi-channel apps. So the first thing is I'm going to start with the XAML and quickly show you how to add on to a view using a couple of the new WinRT XAML controls that we have. So I've got this little app here, and rather than use the simulator, let's use the app thing here. It's a Windows 8 app. Let's just see what we got on it so far. Now, it's the app that Dave just showed you. It's in a multi-channel app. This is what the management might use to figure out how sales are doing and what the discounts are doing. What I want to look at specifically is the inventory screen. So here, this is our supply chain management, and it's empty. So what I want to do, I want to build this out to give a picture to management of how the product is moving and what it's looking like in each warehouse, so they can make a decision on what product needs to go to which warehouse and so forth. All right, so what I've got here is this little Windows 8 app. And in here, I've already set up a little database and some view model. And the real goal of this is to show you how easy it is to work with, and also how easy it is to work with the MVVM pattern, the model view model pattern, which is quite popular with XAML. So here, I'm exposing products and a selected product. So what I want to do, I want to use those two to show that in a meaningful way. So let's go to the view. And since we have those two available to us, what we're going to do is basically just set up the designer. So in here, once the designer loads, let me make this a little smaller so you can see it all. I'm going to split the screen. And then what I like to do is I'm going to add a couple of controls. The first is I'm going to add a grid control on the left-hand side. Control Z's. All right, the first thing is I'm just going to give it a little name here. I'll call it grid control. And to data bind it, I'm going to use it has a property called item source. So I'll set the item source property, and I'll create a data binding, and I'll set it for products. Now, as soon as I do this, our grid control is data bound. And you can see it's got a nice Windows 8 look to it. We've taken care of that. And it's going to respond to the touch events when you're running on the WinRT devices or on the desktop. So we've got that immediately just by data binding. Now, let's add some more meaningful information here. What I want to do is show something visual to the management team to say, hey, this is how the product's doing. So I'll use a Cartesian chart here. And I'll right-click, and same thing, I'll expand it to fill the canvas. And if you, first thing I'll do is I'll give it a name like info chart. And to data bind a chart, you need to set what's called a series. So first thing I'll do is I'll just create a series. And now that I have the series, what I can do is I can add a data source adapter to it. So I'll create a new data source adapter, which I can then use to data bind. So what I'll do is I'll actually data bind it to the selected product. So each product that we click on, I want to get information on it. But rather than the full product, what I want to do is I want to bind it to the warehouse info to show how that product is doing in each warehouse. Now, one last thing is I do want to make this interactive and dynamic. So what I'm going to do is when they click on this grid, I want to set its focus row property. And I'll set that by selecting focus row. I'll create a data binding, and I'll set it to the selected product. But one difference is I'm going to set the direction to two-way. So what happens is when that focus row updates the selected product, then using MVM, the chart is going to go, oh, the selected product has changed, so I'm going to update the information on the chart. All right, so I'll select OK. Now let's take a look at this again. All right, now when we go to inventory, very easily and very quickly, we have a meaningful screen that lets management see exactly how the products are doing within each warehouse. So they can make a decision on warehouse 1 has too little and warehouse 3 has too much, and so forth. All right, so that's Windows RT XAML stuff. Now, I want to show you the multi-channel using DXTREME HTML. So Chris Love mentioned how amazing SPA applications are, all the benefits for them. And one of the challenges with SPA, though, is you can't really have a database. So if you have like a database of 100,000 records or 50,000 records, you can't just put that on the client side. Sure, there's local cache and local data available, but there's only so much you can cache out there. So you have to expose your data some way because these applications, SPA applications, are client-based. So what you want to do is you want to expose that data via a service. Now, if you work with data services, web services in the past, you've known they're kind of a little bit difficult. So DXTREME, we have done a lot of work, right? So somebody asked earlier about some other products out there. What we did was we focused on you. We know exactly that, you know, Visual Studio is where we all work in mostly, and we have done a lot of integrations there to make this really seamless and in many ways fun to use. Taking a lot of the pain points that are difficult to deal with and just reduce them. For example, creating a data service, exposing data is a snap. So what I'll do is I'm going to create a data service here, and I'll call it DXSK8 data service. And the solution name will just be DXSK8. And the first thing you'll do is it's going to bring up the Entity Data Model Wizard. So if you work with Entity Framework, you'll be familiar with this. And what it allows me to do is it allows me to access my local data. So I've got some data in my SQL Express here, which I'll point to. And now I'll be able to select a few tables. So I'm going to grab the brands, products, and stores table. And I'll select these default options, which actually make the object model a little bit easier to read the pluralized and singularized name for sets. And when I click Finish, I am done. I now have a web service. What it's going to do is look at my data, query all that from the database, and generate for me a web service using WCF and Entity Framework. So now, I can put this out on the web right now, and I have a service. So let's just compile this. But a web service by itself isn't meaningful. We want to have something that consumes it. So let's create a mobile app that can consume this. So I'll right-click on the solution. I'll say Add, create a new project. I'll select a multi-channel application project, and I'll call it DXSK8A. And now this is one of the value-added benefits that I mentioned. You can actually select from this wizard the type of channel you want to address. So in this case, I want to select a mobile application, so I'll select mobile. And now it'll actually let me choose the type of layout that I want. Whether I want navigation, an empty one, or a side one, it lets me choose that. So I'm fine with the navigation bar. And this is actually one of the best things. Now we can choose how we want to bind the data to. So if your data is already out there on the web, you just point to it. If it's a RESTful API service or web API service or OData, you point to it, and DXTREME will consume it. In this case, this wizard is smart enough to know, hey, you have a local service. So it allows me to choose it. And now when I click Discover, it's going to query that service just like it would if it was online and find, oh, you've got 3 entities exposed: brand, product, and store. Now, when I click Finish, it generates for me an application, a mobile app that I can deploy that will generate all the views and talk to the web service. I have a full app within a matter of minutes. So let's take a look at this, and then I'll show you a couple of the other awesome integration things that we've done to make working with HTML5 and JavaScript and CSS3 a little bit easier. Sorry about that. That is actually a simulator. Let's look at it in Chrome. All right, so the very first thing is, when you run DXTREME, if you've not seen this before, is we give you this simulator. And the reason is, it makes it easier to envision what this is going to look like on an iPhone device or an Android device. So you can see, hey, when I switch to Android, you've seen that the look has changed. And that's because we take care of the look for you, right? So whether this is on Windows 8 or desktop, we have different CSS for every device. And so we're supporting that. But also, right away, what I got was the ability to display my data. So here we got the brands. Now when I click products, it goes out to the web service, grabs that products info. Now, another great thing is when I actually click on one of these items, it gives me the ability to edit that right from that DXTREME project template. And a little bit more on the simulator is that I have the ability to view it on an iPad or Android tablet, portrait or landscape mode. And one of the favorite features is this simulator is fantastic. But what you really want to do ultimately is when you're ready to deploy is how is this going to work on the actual device? So what we've done is we actually have an app on the iOS app market now and also on the Google Store is this app called Courier. And what Courier will let you do is it lets you scan this QR code. So this is something special that we've done using the cloud. So every time you run, what happens is it goes out to a special service of ours and creates a local connection point to your machine. And that is the best way to debug, right? Because you can make a change there and immediately see it on the device and see how it's going to look and feel. So let's say I want to see what this is going to look like on this iPad. So what I'll do is I will, there. As soon as it sees the QR code, what it's going to do, it's going to navigate to my local machine. So while that's loading up, let me explain a couple of other things. Is that this simulator, while it's loaded, you don't have to load it up. We give you the ability to run it as a native desktop. But in general, if you select that template, we figured you want to view it as a mobile. And it's fantastic because, like I said, it shows you on Android and other items as well. And this connection is a special connection, which you can see when you first run it. So, in fact, if you have it now, an Android device. I don't have an Android device, not that they're not awesome, I just don't have one. But you can actually scan this QR code now and view it on that device. So while this is loading, I'll quickly show you. So what happened is now I'm actually looking at what's running in my Visual Studio on this device without having to go through Apple's provisioning process. I have a native a native app experience right now. So when I click this item, it's actually going to load it. It's going to go query the service running on my box. And so what's great about this is when you're actually ready to deploy, we have a story there for you as well. So Chris mentioned earlier, someone was talking about PhoneGap. We have PhoneGap integration. So if you're trying to figure out, how do I get my DXTREME app to look at the camera? How do I get to the GPS? You can do that with PhoneGap. And so we've made even integration with PhoneGap a little easier. So when you're actually ready to deploy, there's some things we've put inside of Visual Studio, like the ability to enter your license information for your app developers and so forth to make it easier when you're ready to deploy. So now let me show you a couple of other things. Let's say I want to add a little different view. So I want to make the product view a little bit more interesting. So let's show the image here. I've got a little image tag. And anything that's exposed in your model can be displayed. So I've got a little image URL. So if we take a look at the product's view model, I've got this thing called image URL. So it actually has an image of the product. So what I want to do is I want to show that. So now when we go to products, I have an image next to that item, and it makes it a little bit more interesting, as Daniel talked about earlier, right? Images always kind of spice up and make the app a little bit more interesting. And so speaking of which, what if we wanted to use that power? Rather than show this, which looks okay, what I'd really like to do is actually have big images of the boards. So how can we do that? How do we make a different view for tablets versus for phones? Well, with DXTREME, we made that really easy as well. For example, this is the default view. What I'm going to do is I'm basically going to make a copy of this, and the key difference here is rather than showing the name, I'm not going to show the name, I'm just going to show the image. But the one key difference is I'm going to put another data attribute here called data-tablet equals true. Now, I'm going to add that as well as a little CSS in here, just 4 styles to set some things like alignment and so forth. Now, when we go to products on the phone, we still have the same view. But when we go to it on the iPad, we have a completely different view. And that's great because now we can expose for tablets versus phones and have that experience. And what's great is, even if you go to the Android tablet, you'll notice that the Android tablet's a little bit wider. And DXTREME is responsive. It will adapt. So you don't have to worry, hey, this Android tablet's too big or too small. It will automatically adapt to fit that form factor. All right, so just to quickly recap, what we saw is WinRT XAML, very easy to work with. We've got a set of great XAML controls. And DXTREME HTML. You know, there's always this joke about JavaScript that everybody has to work with it now, but it's not always fun. Well, we hope that what we've got delivered here it makes it quite easy and interesting. And you saw within a matter of minutes, you've got the ability to expose your data out there as a web service, and then the ability to consume it on multiple channels. Thanks very much.
We got through a lot of important content. We talked about the importance of the technology shifts that are happening. It's on us now. We are the ones that will carry the torch forward. A lot of requirements on us. We're up to the task. We talked about Windows 8 XAML, showed the tools that Windows 8 XAML that are provided by DevExpress, and we talked about HTML5 and mobile applications and the ability to use JavaScript and CSS to build these hybrid applications. And then we showed DXTREME and how we pull all of that together and build these incredible multi-channel applications. If you are not yet using this amazing technology, I encourage you to go out to our DevExpress.com website, download the trial, get started. There's an incredible learning center that teaches you how to do these things interactively. It's very, very cool. And of course, keep using our products. We thank you for your time today. We hope you got a lot out of it. We certainly did. Let's see what develops.